you talked about the certifications and so on that are quite valuable. And are they valuable even after people leave the Big Four companies? And can you tell us a bit more about the exit opportunities that people have coming from a Big Four background?
Yeah, definitely. I think, my answer is really going to be UK focused here because that's what I know best. But I think in terms of the UK, I don't think you'll find many, if any, CFOs, like chief financial officers, that aren't chartered accountants or have been chartered accountants at some point. It's kind of a requirement in most cases if you're progressing up that ladder. And so your graduate scheme is typically 3 years. That's how long it takes you to pass the exams and gain your chartered accountant status. When you get that, and recruiters on LinkedIn see that you're now been there for 3 years, you must have passed your exams, your kind of inbox is flooded with various jobs for ACA qualified individuals.
Okay.
So that all these jobs in industry are looking for chartered accountants. So there's a number of exit opportunities here. You could either exit opportunities from audit, let's say. You can either move internally, to consulting and deals.
Okay.
You can leave externally, go into industry. So, for example, instead of work at PWC, you work at Unilever in the accounting and finance department there, and you'll have, they'll need to have an ACA. You could a lot of people go into private equity.
Okay.
Like private equity kind of research and stuff like that. You don't have to have an ACA, but what the ACA demonstrates is kind of you have that strong technical understanding of how a company works and the financial statements and the various financials and numbers. That's what it really signifies. I think there's an element as well, particularly the Big Four, that you work hard and you can survive long hours. They know you're kind of a hard worker. It's the same for investment banking. I think investment banking is probably the most competitive one to leave into, and it is definitely the hardest. But I think there is an element where they appreciate that solid accounting understanding of the financial statements. And if you're going into somewhere like consulting externally, once again, I don't think you have too much of an impact, but it's always going to be good at a chartered accountant to understand financially how a business works. So I'd say the ACA is essential if you're moving into industry, like accounting in industry, but it's not essential but beneficial in the other roles. And the exit opportunities as well, just to add a bit more on this, most people, when you leave after your 3 years, back on that salary point, you'll be looking at a 20 to 30% bump or increase in your salary.
Okay.
So there's a lot of people that do leave after those 3 years.
Okay. So can you tell us what are the most popular go-to places or sectors where people go after the Big Four? Is it more industry or is it still finance?
So I can speak from personal experience because obviously my intake now have all qualified and the majority of them have left. There's about 20 or so of us originally. I'd say half of them went into industry. And went into industry like the FTSE 100 companies or S&P 500. So they went into the larger companies. Quite a handful. That's the most common route. That's what most people do. A handful of people went into private equity research. Not massive firms, but some small kind of boutique firms. And I know there's 2 people in my group that actually made the transition to investment banking.
Okay.
One of them's with Citigroup, for example, was moved into Citigroup. And I can't remember what the other one went to a kind of a boutique as well. So it's a real mix, but the majority of people, the natural transition is to go into industry. So a lot of people, what's become increasingly popular is a lot of people at the Big Four, you're leaving as a senior associate, are actually joining smaller accounting firms at a promotion. So I've had a couple of people actually join, there's an accounting firm called Mazars. I think it's one of the top 10 biggest. But I think they've left to be promoted, to a manager position. Yeah. So they're still in professional services and accounting, but they leave just to get a promotion and a better work-life balance, I imagine. Okay,
so they cover private companies over there, I guess.
Yeah, more so, yeah. Or the FTSE 100 is your massive companies. In the UK, you then have it's called the AIM, AIM, the alternative investment market. It's really smaller listed companies. They'll probably focus a bit more on those companies, or like you said, private companies.